Today, Rowena is adding a quilt to her collection, and we have two Patricias. One Patricia is making a quilt for her grandson's wife. The other Patricia is making a memory quilt in honor of her mother. Let's help them out. Hi, it's Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe, and I'm your fabric matchmaker. Today we have a really special episode. Now, as you know, we always try to feature fabric in the most prominent position in the quilt, but today we are featuring 3 row quilts with 3 fabrics that were sent in that work perfectly, and I'm going to step through why I chose row quilts for these. So let's get started with our very first participant, and that is Patricia. Patricia sent in this gorgeous fabric. I love this. It is a fabric that is actually done in really wide stripes. We have a wonderful beach theme here with all of the seashells and things in the basket, as well as some beautiful, beautiful florals. Let's see what Patricia has to say about this fabric. Patricia writes, I am 79 years old and have ordered many of the kits on your website in the past several years. I enjoy using the patterns in the books you offer as they are easy to do and the quilts are a great size. I decided to make each of my children, their spouses, my grandchildren, and their spouses, and my great-grandchildren a quilt. I have completed 12 so far and have 4 more to do. I found this fabric in my stash and I think it would make the perfect quilt for my grandson's wife. She loves flowers and also being on the beach. In fact, they got married on a beach in Florida. The fabric has flowers and the name of it is Nantucket. There are some beach things in the baskets too. I have not been able to find the right fabric to coordinate with this piece and I'm hoping you can help me. Thank you. Well, Patricia, I think we have something perfect for you and I'm sure that your grandson's wife will love it. So let's check out the pattern. Now, our quilt that we chose for Patricia is Checkmate. And there's a couple of reasons why I chose this pattern for you, Patricia. The first is because it's a row quilt. And as you can see, we have a really big piece of fabric here that is cut selvage to selvage with a lot of space. And your fabric is going to look beautiful in that position because it's more of a wide stripe. And I think it's going to really showcase the baskets and the florals, which is really what we're looking for. Then we have a nice, just simple checkerboard pattern here that separates the two. That's going to give you a pop of color, some grounding, and it's really going to bring your fabric to life. So let's go check out the fabric and how we've placed it and what it's going to look like. Now, Patricia, I have the quilt up here as well as your fabric stacked in the appropriate positions that I would like to put it in. So what I'm recommending is to put your fabric in the focus position, which is the #1 position, and that is this long strip on the Checkmate quilt. The reason why I'm doing that is because your design on your fabric is kind of selvage to selvage here, and it would be really great if you have enough fabric to do this, to almost fussy cut your stripes so that your beautiful baskets and flowers fall just so within that stripe. But even if you can't, I still think it's going to look amazing. And it is really going to highlight your fabric here. So that is in our #1 position. Our #2 position is this great beige and white mottled. Now I put this with it because I think it coordinates really well with the background floral on your fabric. And I also kind of think it looks like the sand on the beach, which I think is perfect. All right, this fabric is going to go everywhere you see this little print here. It's also just a little bit on the border and the binding. And then our #3 fabric. I love this fabric. Now, if there were flowers floating in the sea, that's what they would look like, because this rich blue, beautiful floral fabric picks up the blues in your fabric as well as some of the floral designs. This is going to go everywhere you see the pink. And I think it's just going to help it pop so well and really keep that theme of floral and beach going. So love it. Thank you so much, Patricia. I really love your fabric and it was really fun to find just the right quilt to put it in. So we have an image on the screen for you. And as you can see, that fabric is going to work beautifully in that row, in that number one position in that row. Now I have placed it so that it's kind of random. And like I mentioned before, if you have enough fabric that you can fussy cut it a little bit, I think it would be really great to do that. And then of course you can see how the blue just works so well along with that beige, and it keeps that kind of sand and sea theme going, which I think is wonderful. All right, now for participating today, Patricia, I am going to be sending you the book Quilts for Kids that has the Checkmate pattern in it, as well as 1 yard of our number 2 and our number 3 fabric. Thank you so much for participating. Really love it. Now, you inspired me to pull something beautiful together for everyone else, so let's look at that. So we have some gorgeous, gorgeous fabric. You know, I really try to match the fabric that is sent in so that everyone else can have a beautiful quilt like our participants. In this case, I was not able to find that kind of wide stripe with those baskets, but I did find some beautiful hydrangeas, which I think look really, really good. And this is going to add so much color and texture to this number 1 position here. The way that these rows go together, it's really going to be striking. Just wait, the image is beautiful. So in our number 2 position, I've put a nice warm white here, and it has a little bit of a crosshatch on it. It's kind of a tone on tone. That is going to go in our number 2 position here where this texture is here. And you can see how nicely it picks up the background fabric of our number 1. Then our number 3 fabric is the same beautiful blue with the floral on it that really picks up the blues in our focus fabric. And of course that is going to go everywhere the pink is here. This is really striking together. These colors are so rich and beautiful. I always hope so much that you can see how gorgeous they are the way I can in person, because I know all of our screens are different, but this is really yummy. So let's look at an image of this one, and you can see how well it goes together. The floral is just gorgeous in that number 1 position, and that row quilt really accentuates it. Now remember, these quilts are super fast too, because you've got a whole roll of just a single strip of fabric, which is wonderful. And you can see how great it is highlighted in this image. All right, let's get you some kit information on this. This kit is called Nantucket Picnic. The pattern is Checkmate, and that pattern is from the Quilts for Kids book. Now our next participant is Rowena, and Rowena sent in this really fun Coca-Cola fabric. And I'll have to tell you, Rowena, it took me just a little bit to figure this out. I remember having it, walking into Hannah's office going, I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with this. It seems like anything I put it with isn't quite right. And the minute I walked through the door and I looked up, there the perfect fabric was on the shelf, and I was like, oh, that's it. So I can't wait to show you and to tell you about the pattern that we've selected. But first, let's hear what Rowena has to say about her fabric. Rowena writes, hello, Fabric Cafe Matchmaker. We recently remodeled a room off of our garage for a spare bedroom. We have some old Coca-Cola memorabilia, and I decided to decorate this room with it. But of course, every room needs a quilt as a finishing touch. I searched and finally located this Coca-Cola fabric, and I've been struggling with what to do with it ever since. I'm just not certain what to match this fabric with, as white doesn't seem right. The offset lettering is interesting, but I can't locate the right pattern. I am hoping you will be able to give me some fun options and pattern selections. Thank you and have a great day, Rowena. Well, Rowena, we have something really fun for you. Let's check out that pattern. Now, this is our Fascination quilt, and we are doing something just a little bit different. Rowena, we are going to be putting your fabric in the number 3 position and adding a focus fabric to yours. So here we have our focus fabric in this row here. Then we have our number 2 here and our number 3 here. Now what's really interesting is your fabric is going to really show up, and it's going to help our focus fabric pop. And I cannot wait to share this with you. So let's hop over to the table so I can. Okay, so we have our fabric stacked here, and this is so great. Remember the story where I walked in and I saw this fabric and I was like, that's it. Because everything I was putting with it just didn't seem quite right either until I saw this. So as our focus fabric, and of course it's going to go in this wide spot here, It's going to be these great polar bears, which is perfect for Coca-Cola. So here we have very fun bears on a nice blue background, a little bit of snow here, some red sweaters, some blue sweaters, some green scarves. So stinking cute. I just love this. And it, like I said, will go everywhere this is here. Now for our number 2, I did decide to do a soft white in this position, and I know that you were struggling with your whites. This one is not a crisp white. It is a little warmer. It is going to go everywhere the yellow is here and on the background. And the reason why I stuck with white is because I thought the pattern choice of Fascination was perfect because it kind of looks like a snowflake here. The white really helps with that. And then, of course, as our number 3 fabric, our great Coca-Cola from Rowena is going to go everywhere the red is here. And in a minute, you'll see the image and you'll see how this goes together. Now, a little caution, Rowena, whenever you're making your quilt, be sure to check your half square triangles to make sure that the direction of your fabric is correct and it's all going the same way. Very simple to do. Let's look at the image so you can see how fantastic and fun this quilt is. So as you can see, we have our Coca-Cola fabric in those squares here, and as well as on the border. It just looks great, and those polar bears give it so much spunk. I just love how this went together. So very, very, very fun. Thank you for sharing, and I really enjoy it whenever I'm struggling with it too, and then I see it and I find it and this is it, and I think it just turned out darling. All right, so Rowena, for participating today, we are going to be sending you the book, The Magic of 3-Yard Quilts, which has the Fascination pattern in it, as well as 1 yard of the number 1 and the number 2 fabric. So super cute. I would love to see a picture if you make this up. I just think it turned out so great. All right, let's see what Rowena has inspired for the rest of us. Once again, these darling polar bears. I just love these guys. And as we said, they are going to go in the big strip here. And once again, as I mentioned, these quilts go together really fast because instead of having blocks in this strip, we have one long piece, which is so fast and so easy to do. And when you have a really darling fabric like this, a great way to show it off. So the polar bears are all going to be in these sections here. Now for our alternate rows, we have the great same soft white that's just got a little dimpled texture to it for our stars and our block border here. And like I said, I like this in this position because it kind of looks like snowflakes, which I thought was pretty fun. And then our number 3 is a great textural red. It is really going to anchor this quilt. Of course, I don't have the Coca-Cola fabric, darn it, but this one works really, really well in that center position and on the border, and it's going to anchor it, and those polar bears are going to shine in this big row. So let's look at the image of this. I think it's really, really cute. I love the way it looks like snowfall on the quilt, and those polar bears are just all over the place on those rows. It really looks great. The red borders it perfectly. So very, very fun. All right, the kit information on this one. The kit is called Ice Party. It is the Fascination pattern from the book, The Magic of 3-Yard Quilts. So our next fabric was also sent in by someone named Patricia. Now, Patricia, you signed your letter as Pat, so I'm going to refer to you as Pat. Hopefully that's okay with you. Let's look at your fabric. This is amazing. I love this. And when you sent it in, it also took me back to my childhood because I started sewing clothing first, and I used Simplicity patterns, which this fabric actually has Simplicity on. What we have here are these rectangles with all of these very fashionable ladies from the past. Really, really love this. And it does take a very special pattern, which I think we have the perfect one for you. So let's read your letter, Pat, and see what you have to say about this fabric. Pat writes, "Good morning, Texas quilters. I purchased this fabric several years ago. It reminded me of how my mom used to dress years ago. Her name was Vivian. She passed away in 2007. She sewed most of our clothing and her own as well. My mom taught me to sew when I was very small. We know ladies in the past always wore dresses. Most of the time, when I was a child, my mom wore dresses. So I thought of her immediately when I saw this fabric. I have been thinking that I need to make a quilt that would represent her and how she thought back then. Finding matching fabrics has not been easy. Can you help me, please? Your show is so entertaining and filled with good information. You are always learning when you sew and quilt. Thanks so much, Pat. Pat, I think we have something fantastic for you and love your fabric. So let's check out the pattern that we've chosen for it. So Pat, I have chosen to put your beautiful ladies in the Happy-Go-Lucky quilt. Part of the reason why I did that is because the design on your fabric has rectangles, which is a very straight line. And I thought that it would fit really well in this section here. Anytime you cut up something that has a very distinct geometric pattern to it like that, sometimes it helps to show a little more of it so that you can really appreciate the fabric fully. And then it has an alternate row of these fun pinwheels, which I think feel a little nostalgic, which will be perfect for your fabric. So let's check out what we've selected for you. Okay, so Pat, we have your fabric stacked with our other two coordinates here, and we are going to be putting your fabric in the focus position, which means it's going to go in this long strip here. Now, as I mentioned at the quilt, you can see how that your fabric kind of is in rectangular sections, and I think that it's going to be really great here to really show that off and really show all of these ladies. Now, I'm going to recommend again, if you have enough fabric to do so, to maybe fussy cut it just a little bit so that you're not cutting like the top part of your ladies off, so that you can shift it down and really get it centered nicely in this long strip. And it's going to look great. All right, for our number 2 fabric, we have a very fun polka dot. Now, I chose this because I think it has that kind of vintage flair that your fabric has, and I like the dots. It kind of makes me think 50s, and the dots are all different colors, which is picking up all of the colors in your ladies here. Now, this fabric is going to go everywhere you see the white and blue here on the background. And then as our number 3, I have picked up another fabric that I feel looks a little vintage with its design. It is a vine with a black vine on a blue, which picks up the blues in the dresses of the ladies as well as some of the black accents. That is going to be your pinwheel, so that's going to really pop off as well as on the border. So this is just darling fabric. I really, really love it. And what an honor to your mother. I think it's just fantastic. So let's look at the image of the quilt. So Pat, you can see how great this works in this pattern, and you can see how those ladies fit in there so well, and you're going to be able to get a nice view of all of those beautiful dresses. It's almost like a fashion show on your quilt. So I just absolutely love this. I think it turned out great. Now, for participating today, Pat, I am going to be sending you the book Quick and Easy 3-Yard Quilts, which does have the pattern Happy-Go-Lucky in it, as well as 1 yard of the fabric number 2 and number 3. So thank you so much. Once again, love to see an image of this if you put it together and how well it works out. Now let's see what we have for everyone else. Now, Pat absolutely inspired me, which I loved her fabric, and I searched and searched to find just the perfect one that had a similar feel. Now, in this case, we have some lovely ladies on our focus fabric, just like Pat's. Not in the rectangles in the same way, but very, very nice. Look, it has a polka dot background, which is kind of fun. A little pink, some green dresses, some floral dresses. This is all going to go in this strip here and just look amazing. Very fun. For number 2, we are going to keep our polka dot with all the different colors because it does look a little vintage, even though it's not. And it picks up the colors in our ladies' dresses. This will be our background here. And then our number 3. Is this not just the sweetest thing? I like this green. Once again, it looks vintage, even though it is not a vintage fabric, and it picks up the green in the dresses. Because we don't have ladies dressed in blue on our focus, I didn't want to put the blue with it. I wanted to pick up the green in this case, and I think it looks amazing. This is going to be our pinwheels here and on the border, and it really went together great. This is a darling quilt in this pattern. Let's take a look at it. As you can see, our ladies are all on the long border here, showing off their fashion, which is just beautiful. And those pinwheels give us that great nostalgia feel. They're going to go together so quickly. And this is a darling quilt for anyone that loves fashion quilting or just a little nostalgia touch. All right, our kit information on this one is called Dressing Up. The pattern is Happy Go Lucky, and it is from our Quick and Easy book. If you would like to submit a swatch of fabric to the Fabric Matchmaker, just go to fabriccafe.com, click on the Free Goodies tab, and there you will find the submission form. Now, I do prefer a 12-inch swatch if at all possible to send that in. Now, I will be sending your swatches back once you've been featured in an episode. And also, if you're in Canada or any other country, you absolutely can submit. We are more than happy to work with your fabric as well. It is Fran Morgan, your Fabric Matchmaker.